Welcome to this awesome story about Albert Einstein, the mind that refused to obey. Albert Einstein was once labeled slow, careless, and incapable of success. He failed exams, frustrated teachers, and struggled to fit into the education system. But behind his silence lived a mind that questioned everything. This is the inspirational story of a boy who refused to think like everyone else and changed the world forever. Let's begin. Albert Einstein, the boy who refused to think like everyone else. Albert Einstein was not born a genius. That may sound strange, because today his name is synonymous with intelligence itself. People use Einstein as a synonym for brilliance, but the truth is far more inspiring and far more human. Albert was born in 1879 in Ulm, Germany, into an ordinary Jewish family. His father was an engineer, his mother a pianist. Nothing about his birth predicted that he would one day change how humanity understands time, space, and the universe. In fact, for many years people believed he would never succeed at all. The silent child. As a child, Albert was unusually quiet. He didn't speak until he was almost 4 years old. Even when he did, he spoke slowly, carefully repeating sentences under his breath before saying them out loud. Relatives whispered in concern. Teachers doubted him. Some even thought he was intellectually disabled. At school, Albert struggled, not because he was incapable, but because he hated memorization and blind obedience. His teachers valued discipline and repetition. Albert valued understanding and curiosity. When teachers asked him to memorize facts, he asked why. When they demanded obedience, he questioned authority. When they punished curiosity, he withdrew into silence. One teacher famously told him, "You will never amount to anything." Those words could have destroyed him. Instead, they planted a quiet fire inside his soul. A compass that changed everything. When Albert was 5 years old, his father showed him a simple pocket compass. Albert watched the needle move, always pointing north, no matter how the compass was turned. There were no visible strings, no gears, no explanation. Something invisible was controlling it. That moment stunned him. How can something unseen control something seen? He wondered. That single question stayed with him for the rest of his life. It was the moment Albert Einstein fell in love with mystery. Not magic, but the deep mystery of the universe itself. A mind that refused to conform. Albert's school years were painful. He disliked the rigid Prussian education system, where creativity was punished and obedience was rewarded. Teachers wanted soldiers of thought. Albert wanted explorers of ideas. He was often scolded for daydreaming. He questioned textbooks. He challenged assumptions. Eventually, he grew so unhappy that he left school altogether. At 16, he left Germany and moved to Switzerland, alone and uncertain, chasing freedom of thought rather than grades or approval. He failed the entrance exam to the Zurich Polytechnic on his first attempt. Failure stared him in the face again, but this time Albert did not interpret failure as proof of weakness. He saw it as feedback. He studied what he lacked, returned, and passed. Not the best student, but the most curious. Even in university, Albert was not considered exceptional. He skipped classes. He ignored lectures. He preferred studying alone, reading books that fascinated him, thinking deeply about problems no one else bothered to ask. After graduation, his professors did not recommend him for academic positions. He was unemployed. No university wanted him. No laboratory hired him. No one believed in his future, except Albert himself. Eventually, he found a modest job as a patent clerk in Bern. His task was to review inventions, machines, designs, and ideas submitted by others. To many, it was a dead-end job. To Albert, it was freedom. The office where the universe changed. In his small patent office, Albert worked 8 hours a day reviewing mechanical designs. But when he finished his duties, his mind was free. He thought, he imagined, he questioned. What would it be like to ride on a beam of light? What happens to time when you move close to the speed of light? Is time absolute, or does it depend on the observer? These were not questions professors were asking. These were not questions professors were asking. These were not questions textbooks answered. But Albert was not afraid of asking questions without answers. In 1905, while still working as a patent clerk, Albert Einstein published 4 scientific papers that would later be called the Miracle Year Papers. Each one challenged fundamental assumptions about reality. One explained the photoelectric effect, which later helped create modern technology like solar panels. One explained Brownian motion, proving the existence of atoms. One introduced special relativity, showing that time and space are not fixed. And one introduced the equation that would become world famous. E equals mc2 energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. The universe was no longer the same. From nobody to revolutionary at first, many scientists ignored him. Some mocked him. Others dismissed his ideas as absurd. How could time slow down? How could space bend? How could a patent clerk challenge centuries of physics? But truth does not require permission. Slowly, experiments confirmed his predictions. Light bent around massive objects. Time moved differently for moving observers. Einstein was right. The man who had been called slow, lazy, and useless had rewritten the laws of reality. Success without arrogance. Despite his growing fame, Albert remained humble. He dressed simply. He spoke softly. He laughed easily. When praised, he often shrugged and said, "I have no special talent. I am only passionately curious." He believed imagination was more important than knowledge. "Knowledge is limited," he said. "Imagination encircles the world." To Albert, intelligence was not about memorizing facts. It was about asking better questions. A moral voice in a troubled world. As his fame grew, so did his responsibility. When Nazi Germany rose to power, Albert, being Jewish, was forced to flee. His books were burned. His name was listed among enemies of the state. He moved to the United States, where he spent the rest of his life. Though he helped warn America about nuclear weapons, he later deeply regretted the destruction they caused. He became a strong advocate for peace, civil rights, and global cooperation. Einstein believed science without morality was dangerous. Concern for man and his fate, he said, must always form the chief interest of all technical endeavors. What Einstein teaches us today, Albert Einstein's greatest lesson, is not an equation. It is a mindset. He teaches us that struggling early does not mean failing. Forever being different is not a weakness. Curiosity is more powerful than obedience. Imagination can change the world. Persistence matters more than approval. He once said, "It's not that I'm so smart. It's just that I stay with problems longer." That is the secret. Not genius, not luck, not talent, persistence. The boy who refused to quit, the boy who spoke late, the student who failed exams, the graduate nobody hired, the clerk who worked in silence. That boy became Albert Einstein, not because the world believed in him, but because he believed in his questions. And today, his story whispers to anyone who feels underestimated, overlooked, or behind. You are not broken. You are not late. You are not incapable. You may simply be thinking differently. And sometimes that is exactly what the world needs. Closing message, perfect for narration. If you feel lost, if you feel slow, if others doubt your potential, remember Einstein. The universe does not reward conformity. It rewards courage, curiosity, and persistence. Keep asking, keep imagining, keep going. Because the next idea that changes the world may be quietly forming in your mind right now.